Welcome everybody to today's session. I am Namrita. I'm a clinical psychologist at Brain Wonders, and it is truly an immense pleasure for me to address all the wonderful parents who are joining us for today's session, taking that time out to hear a story about a genius child. You may have already been familiar with the topic, why early childhood and why knowing about early childhood is very, very important. Before we begin into answering the technical questions like yes, why not, and all those things, I would like to begin with a story, a story I like to call as a genius child. As of now, I will be the narrator, the producer, and the director of the same. But after the session, I hope that you would be able to take the learnings and create your own story with your own child, where your child is the main protagonist. Yes, your child will be the main hero or the heroine of their own story. So without any further delay, let's begin. Before I move on, please use the comment section generously. Any queries, any questions or any comments that you have, I would love to hear it over there. So the story starts, let's just take back, we move a little behind. It starts with a flashback. In this flashback, there's a baby that is born. You may wonder who this baby is. It is your own child, the treasure, the heart and soul of your entire life. So, when the baby is born, there are a lot of questions that the parents, have. What will they do? How will they grow up? What do I have to do? As many challenges that the parents may face, there it is followed by as many questions. In this story, the child has a lot of behavior. They have a lot of things to put forward, and the parents along with the child are adjusting to a lot of things. You may be wondering, okay, when does my child sleep? How do they communicate about whether they are hungry or not? What do I do in case, they wake up in the middle of the night crying, throwing a tantrum maybe, right? And a lot of times, you do not know whether the child is ready to eat or ready to sleep or anything like that. And you may be trying to put the child to sleep, but it is not working out. Why? Because the child is not in the mood to sleep. The child wants to play, they want to giggle, they want to laugh. Just when the time comes for you to hit the bed, the child decides to wake up crying, putting all your lovely dreams to bed, and you have to wake up and tend to the child. This is when a child is still an infant. Even as they grow, the child will learn how to crawl, how to walk. They may make some sounds as well, which you may not be able to understand, right? When you talk to them, they will respond in a language that we don't understand. That is the reason why it is important to know about early childhood. A child has a lot of behaviors assigned with them, and even if we don't understand it, the child has a lot of thought aligned with him or her. In this case, what actually happens is that the child is trying to communicate, they try to express, but they do not express in a way that we understand. What is surprising is that often we as parents or educators, we expect the child to talk, we expect the child to speak, we expect the child to adjust, even though that is exactly not what is supposed to be happening. Being a parent, I understand it's a difficult job, as it comes without a manual. But then a lot of time, a lot of parents struggle trying to adjust their routine to the child's routine. As being, I can see that there are a lot of parents and there are a lot of mothers they are joining us. There are some fathers as well, which is great to see. Anytime we talk about it, the parents always play a lot of roles. At their work professional, they may be a boss, they may be an employee, they may be a supervisor or a manager. Similarly, at home, they are a husband or a wife, and of course, a parent. In a society, they are also upstanding members of the society, whether it's a friend circle, they are the planners, they are organizers. Similarly, the child also plays many roles. It is very important for us to understand that at any point of time, we do not negate the child as a child. because the child is honestly the father of the man, and it is always that way. The child is the one who is growing up. The child has a future to look forward to. And that is why, as parents, it is our responsibility that we adjust ourselves and try to understand the child. So, in the story, like I said, it starts with an infant and then slowly the child grows. They try to learn to talk, they try to hold your hand, they try to walk themselves up, they try to sit up straight, right? They may even start by pointing out to things that they like or things that they do not like. And we as parents, it is our job to understand and interpret that and provide to the child's requirement. So during this time, what is actually happening is that the child is developing, the child is growing, the child is exploring. Yes, they are exploring. That is why it becomes very important that whenever we think about talking to a child or interacting with them, we focus on what they want, how do they want things to be done, and how are they thinking about certain things. Naturally, it is not something that is easy. Naturally, it is not something that comes very naturally. That is why when we talk about child development, there are a lot of technical terms that you will hear. You will hear about cognitive development, you will talk about learning style, you will talk about motor skills, you will talk about language development. These are all very very heavy words, but before we divulge into that, we have to understand that all of it comes down to same thing. It is talking about growth, it is talking about development, and it is talking about advancement by the way of learning. So when we work with a child or whenever we are trying to understand ourselves with respect to a child, it becomes very important that we look forward to them, interact them in a way that they also understand us. Remember, it is always the parents' responsibility to understand the child and help the child understand the parents. It will never be the other way around, right? So that is why it becomes very very important that whenever we discuss, whenever we talk about the child, whenever we want to move along with the child, we hold their hands as firmly as they hold ours. That is why early learning and early childhood plays a very very key role in when we talk about development or the future or human growth in general. I'll give you some facts and figures. For example, you may have already heard that the child's brain grows, much more rapidly compared to other people and everything. The learning is definitely something that is much more rapid with the child. Now, imagine if you have to learn certain things, right? You, being the more knowledgeable expert, would always know whom to go to, what is the task to be taken, what are the steps to be followed, what are the lessons you have to search for, correct? But you just have to sit with the child and you will know that the child is definitely grasping a lot of things much more earlier and much more responsively than you. For example, parents, I invite you for an activity. After this session or whenever you have the time, whenever you have the you feel comfortable, try this out with the child. Maybe pick up a new language, let's say, or an unfamiliar language, let's say Sanskrit or French or Punjabi, any language which you are not very familiar with, and neither is your child. Sit together and try and watch a video or any sort of resource where you try to learn a few words of this particular language. Despite you being very very set in your linguistic skills, despite you having a much more clearer communication, you will observe that when all of both of you are put on a same pedestal, on a same platform, the child is picking up certain words much more rapidly. Yes, there may be some problems with their diction or with the way they are pronouncing things, but you will see that they are definitely responding to it much more rapidly than you. Similarly, if let's say you have to run for 50 meters or 100 meters, you will see that even though you may finish first, the child may be able to you know be after the race, you will see the child is still ready to go for another mile, whereas you will feel a little tired, you will feel a little exhausted. When it comes to people also, you will see that anytime you are in a different surrounding, the child will be looking here, there, and everywhere, trying to grasp in whatever they can. Why? Because that is something that the child does. They are open to learning, they are open to grasping. When it comes to brain development, a child's age develops very, very, very rapidly but till the age of 6 years, almost attaining its full potential. That is also because almost 60 to 80% of the neural connections, that is the wiring in your brain, expands massively during this time. Similarly, whenever the child is whenever you talk about a child, they are usually at the peak of their natural physical ability, and that's why you will see the children don't really sit at one place. You may get irritated, why are they moving around, jumping here, jumping there, breaking things, but that is because they are at the peak of their physical ability. There's nothing to hold them back, which is a good thing. In terms of sensitivity as well, any toddler would experience and learn with maximum use of all their senses. Yes, all five senses. Even at this point, if I ask you how many senses are you using, firstly, some of you may ask, what are these five senses? Right? So I'm talking about taste, touch, smell, sight, and of course, hearing. Maybe most of us depend on our vision. That is how we see things, and sometimes about what we are listening to. That is the two sense that we use the most. Where in the case of the child, however, we understand that definitely they are always exploring everything with each and every bit of sense that they have. So you will see a child touching things that they are not supposed to touch. You will see a child licking the ground that they are not supposed to lick, right? Like I said, if you go to a new environment, and you tell the child to look at the camera, they will be looking at the camera and everywhere else, because they are so busy learning, listening, understanding, seeing, feeling, all these things. That is why a child learns more rapidly, more vividly than any adult that we have seen. Often as adults, we think we know better, which is to some extent true. But how we apply that learning, or how we apply that knowledge, also plays a very key role. So, for example, I have a question in the comments from Ms. Komal, that the child is 5 years old and is addicted to mobile phones. So, how can we reduce the usage for him? To this, I would like to reply, just like I spoke about, the child is using all their senses, right? In the phone, they are still not utilizing all their senses, primarily the sense of smell and the sense of touch. Engage them in activities that give them that. And often, if the child is using the mobile phone, it is always a good idea to look back and see where did the child pick up this behavior from, because a child is still learning and they will only learn what they see or what they think or what they are aware about. How is a child exposed to such massive usage of mobile phones? I think that would be a good question to start with. So, anytime you feel that the child is picking up the behavior, don't look at the child, look at the environment. Where is the child picking up and learning these things? It is extremely important for us as parents that, like I said, before we move on to the future, let's stick to the history, let's stick to the flashback. That whenever we think of, interacting with the child, we often dumb down our experiences. So what we call as baby talk, right? To partly, it is definitely cute, it is definitely adorable. But then, if you want the child to pick up clear pronunciation, clear communication, clear diction, you will have to treat the child accordingly. And yes, you may think that the child is very young and may not understand a lot of things, but remember, a child is at the age and they are at their optimum thinking, feeling, processing capacity at that age. So don't dumb things down for them, because children are very intelligent and they are much more open to learning, much more open to exploring than we are. Anytime we think that, okay, a child should be able to do something as well as an adult is able to do, we are actually limiting their potential. Because a child's brain is developing, the child's body is developing, the child's mind is developing rapidly. which means they can gain and understand things much more than what we do. Intelligence usually crystallizes at the age of 16. So for all the parents out there, you have a long way to go when we talk about, child development and how much time do we have to actually help them understand and pick up a few things, whether it's about social skills, whether it's about anything else. So a good idea would be always to understand what what age is a child at and what age you are at. When you understand these two things and the differences that you have, you can always go back to your own experience and see that even in the past 4 or 5 years how much you have grown. So even as an adult, when you give yourself the space to make mistakes, learn, and pick up things that you have not been familiar with, why not give that to a child? Because if you give them that exposure at an early age, nothing beats that. Talking about active children, we also have another question which asks how to engage a hyperactive baby and what activities should be good for them for an 18-month-old baby, right? So that is 1.5 year. Hyperactive, we can call somebody hyperactive because their energy levels or the way they move their body is not as per what we would like. Hyper, the word would mean anything that is more, that is a little more than what is, ideal. And that is why when we call somebody or a child hyperactive, it just means that probably they are having a lot of energy which we do not know how to channelize. When we talk about a baby, I think it is a great thing that your child has so much of energy which can be channelized in so many positive ways. You can involve them in sand play, right? At home only, maybe fill up a bowl with sand and have them make any shapes or anything that they want. There are a lot of times when you can just give them a sheet of paper and some big crayons, like big jumbo crayons, and they can just scribble through. Don't expect them to make perfect lines. Don't expect them to fit to make a tree with straight lines, because that is not what a child is. A child is unbridled source of energy. They are unbridled source of potential, and that is how a child will grow. That is how we will have to nurture the child. So anytime we talk about surplus energy, we also have to talk about channelization of that surplus energy. So in this case, giving them that space. And of course, I understand that it is corona time, you cannot really take your child out for anything, but maybe clear some space in your living area, remove all the tables and put some some mattresses or some pillows, and the child can just run around that. The child is not as materialistic as we are. The child does not need, okay, a proper canvas and a proper paint box or a proper space, a separate room to do anything. They can find and learn and grow anywhere that we can allow them to grow in. Just giving them that space, ensuring that all the breakables are nowhere around, is already a good enough thing. Your baby will definitely channelize that energy in a very nice way. And actually, in this case, I would also recommend that probably allowing them to pick up, I'm sure they might be walking by now, or at least like taking holding themselves up. Maybe put on some music, and just have them try to move to the tune. These kind of things are not only good ways to let go of that extra energy, it is always a good way to develop new skills, what we call as motor skills. Anything that is a part of your body or how you move your body, motor skill development can happen very well via this. It is actually always good, and like you said, understanding it at an early age of course has its advantages, and that is what we have to work with. If you talk about any let's say prodigy, let's say whether it's Sachin Tendulkar or Lionel Messi or Albert Einstein, any of the prodigies that we talk about, okay, that okay, this person, this or this child, even when they're young, at a young child, they were very smart. It is always a good idea to understand that why are they a prodigy and why maybe somebody else is not. A prodigy by word means a young child who has been showing a lot of potential at an early age, which means That potential has to be explored and recognized at an early age, and at the same time, it also has to be cultivated at that early age. That is why understanding your child at an early age is extremely important. And I would say this again, knowing your child is your responsibility. A child is just like an open book who will express anything that they can. They are ready to take on the world. We just have to let them be. Remember, we have to guide the child. That is what will help the child to grow. Anything that you try to stifle up will always blow up later. With this, I have another question coming in. Is it important to teach them a hobby as early as now so that it continues when they grow up? So let's leave the terms, hobbies, activities, school, or learning, or academics, or development, or anything like that. Even if you let a child be, they would definitely like to maybe watch a particular kind of cartoon, or they may like to scribble on the walls, or they may like to walk around and run around, jumping from one chair to another. Later on we can say that okay, this child may grow up to be a painter, this child may grow up to be an athlete, and so on. It is always great to let the child explore the hobbies first before we tell them to develop anything. Let the growth be multidimensional. That is what a child can do. We as adults may have certain limitations. We may not have the time or the energy to be multidimensional, to do whatever we want to do. But the child's child can grow in each and every. You want them to grow vertically, they'll grow vertically. You want them to learn anything and everything that comes on their way, they'll do that. That is how they are naturally wired. That is how we were also naturally wired when we were children. So it is always a good idea to give them that exposure. So if you see that a child is scribbling on the walls, give them a large sheet of chart paper. Don't give them a small sheet, and tell them to draw within the boundaries. Give them a large chart paper, and you will see that they will do something. If you think that they're jumping here and there from the bed, make a solid ground for them. Put enough mattressing, put enough bedding, so that even if they fall, they will not get hurt. If you think that they are trying to sing or hum or rhyme something all the time, expose them to music, expose them to simple rhymes, tunes, and melody, and you will see. Let the child pick up their interest and follow it through. Because, as I was saying, every child is definitely a prodigy in making, provided we realize that potential at an early age. Okay, otherwise you'll see a lot of time we also have regrets, right? That okay, I could have done this, I could have done that. Don't let that happen with your child. Learn from your own experiences, if nothing else. So whenever you do that, you'll see the child will definitely pick up certain things, and they will gain any hobbies or interests or activities that they would like, and they would excel in it as well. So when we talk about hobby development at an early age, it is always a good idea to give them that exposure and that support, and then followed by certain guidance. And that is how a child can develop the hobbies, because right now the world is very competitive. And when they grow up, a hobby is not only something that you're passionate about, that gives you certain space and that relief. It is also something that helps you gain an edge in a certain time. If you talk about, like I said, Sachin Tendulkar or Messi or Albert Einstein, they had their own hobbies. One chose cricket, one chose football, one chose science. For them it might have been an interest and a hobby. It is only when they got that opportunity to pursue it seriously with a lot of support and guidance, it became their profession for which we know them now, right? And that is why, my friends, it is extremely important that we always give the child a platform wherever they want, whenever they want. When we talk about holistic development as well, right, in terms of child prodigies, or in any case, we have to understand there are a lot of factors that we take care of, which have the children identify their own likings, identify their own dislikes. A child is not eating a particular vegetable but eats some other vegetable, right? Why? Because a child may not have developed a taste for certain things, and the child needs to see that they also will be eating in the similar manner. They need to be convinced in a way that they understand. If you force a child to say, no, eat it, it's healthy, a child does not really understand what healthy means. You have to tell them that, okay, you will grow big and strong. They don't understand what big and strong would actually mean until unless you compare it with the cartoon character that they want, right? Until unless you tell them that, okay, if you do this, you will be able to you will be able to play a little longer, you will not get tired very easily. That is how they work through certain things. Whenever we try to help the child understand certain things, we have to give them the examples that they want. You cannot have a child study hard or work hard or learn a nursery rhyme so that they can have a very nice rich successful career ahead. You will have to tell them to learn a nursery rhyme because it's fun for them right now. That is why, if you see, it becomes extremely important that we take in all those questions, we take in all the child's understanding, that child's wonders, and address it in a way that the child would like to be addressed. If you talk about comparing that, okay, is my child progressing right, is the child developing right or not, it is always good to understand that every child is born unique, which means they have their own strengths, and they are born with certain things that they need to work on. Now, my friends, we are moving towards a section where we, from the history, let's focus on the future. The child is born with certain traits, the child is born with certain temperament, they are born with certain qualities. And that is why it becomes very important that we give a space for those qualities to flourish and nurture the same at the same time. I have a question from Ms. Tejal, which asks, any test which you recommend for 5 years old child? So yes, actually, it is very very important that whenever we talk about child development, we also understand that we may not always be in a position to answer each and every query of how our child is that we as parents may not understand, that how is a child behaving like this, why is a child not behaving like this, why is a child good in this case but not picking up certain things in that case, because every child is unique. So any test, let's say like a DMIT test or a milestone marker test, these kind of things are always good to understand how is a child growing, and what we as parent have to do to take care of it. Parenting, like I said, is a job. It's a job without a manual, and understanding your child will give you that manual. Your parenting style will have to match the child's developmental style. It will not be the other way around. So, for example, when we talk about, let's say, 8 kinds of intelligence, all right, so there's always a good idea to explore what are the activities that can be used to develop those specific 8 kinds of intelligence. So, for example, when your child is running from here and there, breaking things, right, or maybe eating food with their hands but not being able to hold it in their hands, they are using their bodily or kinesthetic intelligence. Similarly, when you see a child is making certain sounds, or even if they are pointing to certain things, or when the child is trying to evoke certain words, whether it's a mama, papa, water, or anything like that, they are trying to use their communicative or linguistic intelligence. This is something that you also notice when they are trying to recite a nursery rhyme. Again, when you talk about other aspects, let's say when you talk about your child exploring a particular environment, observing what the place is, being excited by a particular color, the child is using their naturalistic or their visual intelligence. So a lot of times when the child is trying to understand certain things, when a child is trying to grasp certain things, and a lot of times when we say no, right? How many times do we say no to a child? In any day you pick up, or any recent incident that you pick up where a child has been doing something that you would think is unnatural, or it is it is mannerless, the child would you would say no, don't do this, without any explanation, without any understanding. When every time a child hears no, they get a little demotivated, and they don't even understand why. Yes, it is something that is not supposed to be done, but why? They don't understand that. And that is why a child will repeat the same thing again, and then you will say you are repeating the same mistake again and again, right? So that is why it becomes important that we understand the child's personality, we understand the child's behavior, we understand their thinking, we understand their learning styles, we understand their the creativity or the analytical mind that they have, we understand their strengths, we understand their limitations, or the areas that basically we have to work on. And then of course we work on those understandings by giving them the parenting that they deserve. So anytime when you talk about, let's say, whether my child can become the next athlete, or the next gold medal winner, or the next president of a particular country, or whether my child can become a world famous musician, or will my child win the Nobel Prize, it is always good to understand, are we giving the child that space to reach that potential? That is a very important question to know. And that is a very important question to answer. And nobody can answer that apart from you and your child. And that is why when you go for an analysis, or when you try to, understand their inborn potential and work on it, that is something that will give you and the child a brighter and a happier future ahead together. Now, like I said, every child is unique, right? And every child has the potential to become a prodigy. When we talk about these factors, we have to understand that it is important that we treat every child's unique potential uniquely. So, for example, if today, let's say the AC takes up 10 minutes to cool a room down, that may be because today the weather is outside is also pretty pleasant, and tomorrow if the same AC takes 20 minutes to cool a room down because it's very bright and sunny and hot and humid outwards, we cannot blame the AC and say that okay, the AC is not working. It depends a lot on how the environment and how the rest of the factors are also working in. Similarly, a child is also born with their strengths. A child may grow up to be a world famous singer, or a world famous musician, or let's say a world famous swimmer, you know. But if you have never given this child a swimming pool, they don't know what a swimming pool looks like or what a lake looks like. It is unfair to say that this child has not lived up to its potential, because the child was ready, the child had the talent. We did not give that exposure, or we did not give that space for the child to learn and understand those factors. So there's a question that we have from Frank. Do we have any tests that can help us to understand the learning style of the child? Yes, actually there is. And I would like to share that with all of you also towards the end of the session. We have a test to understand the three learning styles of the child. Everybody can understand in any way, but like I said, if we use a child's dominant learning style to guide them and work with them, naturally their grasping and the understanding becomes higher and better. So when we talk about the three learning style, that is primarily auditory, where you listen and learn, so sound based way of understanding. Then we have the visual, where you see things and you understand things. And then we of course have the kinesthetic, where you need to feel, you need to experience things, and then you get a hold of certain things. All right. Again, we also have to understand, so I also have a parent, who's saying that yes, sometimes I'm not giving the child that space, but I know that as a parent I need to improve myself, which is, I think, commendable to note. That is the whole point of when we talk about parenting. That is the main job, that is the main agenda of parenting. So when we talk about, let's say, behavioral traits, or when we talk about, a prodigy or anything, we have to understand that certain times we like a child to do certain things, and the similar activity or the similar thing when the child grows up we don't like. A child is coming today, who is, let's say, 2 years old or 1 year old, and hugging the parent all the time, trying to catch hold of the parent all the time, and we say, oh, this is so cute. And the same thing when the child does when they are 3 years old or 4 years old, maybe 5 years old, when they're going to a nursery school or a play school, and they're crying at the door, that they do not want to go. They are not letting go of the parent. We say, oh, the child is so clingy. Why? It is not the child's fault that they are being pushed into an unfamiliar environment, and they know that earlier when they used to hug you or kiss you, you used to like it, and you are their source of comfort, and suddenly we are like, mm, no, 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 don't do this. It's a school, so now you have to behave properly, now you have to go. It's very, very unfair, right? So when you say no to a child, I have another question which asks very directly that does saying no to a child hamper their growth? Imagine this: if you are at a particular organization and you come up with an idea that okay, if we instead of doing this, if we do something like this, I think that would work out. When you do that and your boss says no, does it hamper your growth or not? It will, right? You say that okay, you want to, let's say, go out and work instead of being a full-time mother, or when you think that okay, instead of working, you want to dedicate yourself to your child's upbringing, whichever way you prefer, and somebody says no, you do not have that choice, you will do what I tell you to do. Don't you feel unfulfilled in whatever you are doing then? And you are a intelligent, developed, responsible adult that we are talking about. So naturally when you say no to a child, it does hamper their growth. What we have to do is, however, we have to say no responsibly in a way that childs understand. Of course you cannot let the child go running on a crowded street with all the cars coming in here and there. So this time when you say them no, you give them an alternative that because there are coming cars running here and there, we will not be able to cross the street. We might get injured. Let us wait for the traffic light to turn red, and then we will use a zebra crossing to go. Give them a solution as well. Just saying no is not justified at all. You need to give them a solution as well as to why you are saying no, or what is the thing that is working through them. All right. And it becomes extremely important for us to understand that whenever we are talking about a child saying saying certain things or asking certain things, they're asking for a lot of validation. Don't just turn them down directly. It has to be backed up by certain things that the child will go, okay, you will not go out and play in the rain, but I will make you popcorn and we can have a movie night. That is the way that the child would actually learn to trust you, rely on you, and work through certain things. All right. Now it becomes extremely important again, like I said, to understand, how the prodigy child works. Like I said, that the word prodigy relies on the fact that you understood a lot of things early. All right. Now, when we talk about learning, or when we talk about development, and as we have understood that every unique child requires unique parenting, we also have to understand that there's a lot of things we need to do to comfort the child. All right. Because a a, a comforted child is a happy child. And that is where we draw in the concepts of happy child, right? Imagine if you are at peace, you know that all your needs are being met, you know that whenever you say or whenever you want to communicate or get in touch with somebody, it is happening that ways. You will also be motivated to be more peaceful. You will also be more relaxed. You will also be happy. And that is a similar way that a child would work. The a genius child, and let's say anybody else, would have a difference of 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours, when we discuss, it is basically comes down to 416 weeks. All right. Which would, again, if we say we are looking at another close to 8 years roughly of child development. You have the time on hand. You have the right amount of time to work through certain things and and grow up with the child. When we say 10,000 hours, what it basically says is, if you have read the book by Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, that every time, let's say if you do something, if you practice something for 10,000 hours straight, there's nobody who can match you up for it. That is how the concept of 10,000 hours work. What your child has the advantage is that they have that 10,000 hours to grow and learn, supported by the fact that their biological development and mental development as is at its peak right now. Your child is an unstoppable force. Only thing that you have to do is guide that force into something that is positive, something that is favorable, something that will give them the results that they so very well desire. That is why when we talk about 10,000 hours and what to do and what not to do, it becomes very, very important to understand that what we as parents can do. So there have been a lot of questions already, which ask about, okay, what are the main aspects like, or what are the ways in which we can understand the child. So naturally, an unbiased test would be a great idea. You can have a test and you can have a counseling. All right, consult an expert. Don't be afraid, to ask for help, because it is a child we are talking about. We are talking about the golden years that they have. So let's say something like a DMIT test, or like I said, a milestone test, or let's say an interest test. When you do that, when you have a parenting test taken care of, you understand that how is the child thinking, how is the child behaving. It is very easy to say, okay, a child is not listening to me, they are stubborn. This child is misbehaving. When the same child is very, very dedicatedly playing at certain things, or when a same child is very, very focused in the academics and trying to achieve good marks, that time we don't have the problem with the stubbornness. It depends on how we understand and interpret that stubbornness, or how we understand and guide that stubbornness. Similarly, identifying the right kind of learning styles is important. For example, if you are somebody who likes to, let's say, learn more via what I'm talking, and if instead of talking, I just give you a written document, which is very boring, you would also say, no, 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 I did not understand anything. It was not that effective. I'm not sure that I got what was being written out there. Why? Because a, and the learning style and the teaching style has to match. So it is always a good idea to understand the child's learning style and then build around your teaching style, your communication as per the child. Again, when we talk about, okay, is the child creative or is the child more, you know, more analytical? How does it matter? If your child is creative, give them that space, and if your child is analytical, give them that space. There's always a way to balance it out. Again, when we talk about the strengths, naturally everybody has their own strengths, but then everybody also has certain things that they can always work on. Earlier you work on those things, earlier you catch on to those things, the better it is, any point of time. So for example, if we have like I said, if you have ever explored your child, just let them be in the play area. You will see that they are not sitting still. They will always be looking here and there. They'll always be trying to touch and feel things around them, or they will always be looking to you, okay, tell me what to do, give me some instructions. That is because a child is always ready to grasp. They are always ready to pick on certain more things. Okay, I have a question which says that, okay, I want to improve my child. I want to improve myself as a parent, but I need to learn to have patience. And what are the visionary teaching skills, please? There's one very clear way, short way to be the best parent. That is to use a parenting style that is suitable to your child. When you do that, you get a lot of responses, you get that results, you get that evocation from the child saying that, yes, whatever you're trying to do, I'm getting it, I'm learning it, and I like it, and I want to take it ahead like that. Patience, naturally, it doesn't come that easily in an adult or anybody, and it is very unfair of us to expect the same from the child. Patience doesn't always mean just sitting still and waiting for a response. Patience is characterized by the fact that you know that the why child is taking so much time to, let's say, solve a particular piece of puzzle. That is what patience means. And that is how we will have to adjust to it. So once, like we said, if the child understands, they would be willing to cooperate with you. You also understand why is the child taking so much time. Have I missed out on a particular piece of instruction? Is there another way in which I can, teach the child? The best way, like I said, is to understand the child in terms of what they are born with, what are their potential, and then take it ahead. The story of a genius child starts with you being a parent who understands a child. And a genius child is a happy child. When we talk about genetic intelligence, that is that is what will drive the child, instead of us trying to force ourselves, our ambitions or our visions and our limitations on the child. Knowing the learning profile is what would help in you developing yourself, your communication, your ideas, your interactions with the child, and all of these will actually lead up to a very nice, healthy parent child relationship. You are your child's constant support, you are your child's biggest cheerleader. And when your child also understands the same thing, the kind of value they will place on you, the kind of trust they would have on you, the kind of inspiration they would seek from you is boundless. And that is why it is very very important that when we work with a child who's, let's say, the age of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or even I'll say, up till the age of 9 to 12 years, it is important that we focus on learning, learning, learning. You may sometimes feel, okay, I'm doing so much, my child is doing so much, why are they not getting the results? Because a child is more focused on the input. They are picking up things in a way that you are not even comprehending. They learn things absolutely very, very naturally, very automatically, without using a lot of force, without using a lot of guidance. They pick up certain things, right? And then they give the output after a certain time. After that they give certain responses, they give certain results. And that is where it becomes very important that when we work with a child, or when we are, when we are busy being parents, we always build our parenting around that child and not the other way around. Any further questions that are coming up as we draw closer to the end of the session? Any further questions that are coming up? That would be great. Okay, he is higher active, he loves studying, but he's weak in speaking, and we have not the best kind of bond, I feel sometimes. Okay, he's great at studying and he's weak at speaking. I'm pretty sure when he was born, let's say 1 or 2 years old, he was not great at studying also. Slowly they may have picked up, they may have found a good teacher, they may have found a good source of inspiration which is helping them study, right? They are now interested in that, they are now inclined towards that. Give them some time, they will pick up they will pick up basic speaking skills as well. You know you can build a whole communication activities around them. You can, and remember, when we talk about communication, doesn't only mean verbal, it could also mean non-verbals. Even when a child is pointing to certain things and asking you to give it to them, or when a child is trying to you know say certain things, don't jump in, interrupt them and complete their sentences or their words. Wait for them to talk, to express. They may say the word in a in an incorrect manner, but if they talk and it gets understood and validated by you, they are motivated to try again next time, to be better next time, even as a 3 year old. So if you talk about 3 year olds, we can definitely understand there's a lot of development that is still happening. So it is perfectly natural if if they develop speech in another 1 year or so. I would recommend in this case, you can also consult an expert counselor, let's say somebody like Brain Wonders, or a counseling organization, and understand that where is that lag happening. Understand that, okay, if the child is ready to learn, if the child is ready to express, why is that expression not coming out? Maybe they're also not very comfortable with the way that you would validate their opinion. Maybe they want to impress you and they want to do it right the first time, right? So that is why when we talk about any child understand certain things, so that is where we can take things ahead. mm, Tejal here is asking for, okay, so yes, you can understand. All right, Tejal. So I will post my. You can take down the number in case you want. It is 99877 and that is where you can reach me for further parenting or this thing, or specific queries. But for now, let us focus on, uh, why the overall or holistic development of the child is important. Holistic development is what we have to give, holistic exposure is what we have to give, and it is up to the child to decide where they want to specialize and take their journey ahead further. As promised, I will also share the link over here. Just give me a moment. And right, so here it is. Just gives, yes. So I have shared a link over here, all right, which you can take to understand the parenting style of your child or the learning style of your child. And once you know the learning style, you get a full-fledged report. It is something that I'm giving it complimentary to you, all right. Any queries that you have, anything that you want to know later on, you can always reach us. Right now, my urge to all the parents would be, please understand your child. Talk the language, which your child understands, and then take it ahead from there. Your child is waiting to learn from you. Your child is waiting to bond with you. They just have to, you just have to walk that extra mile and reach them in a way that they would like. They are ready to receive you in. So again, when we talk about okay, so thank you. I got one more question. We are bilingual parents, and my kid says just a few words, but I'm afraid she may talk very late. Is it true, as people say, bilingual is not good for the child? Um, in India, I think 90-95% of the parents will be bilingual, and the kids nowadays are actually multilingual. They are not stopping at two languages. Being a bilingual thing is good thing. Yes, it may take some time for you to, because the child is trying to understand two languages one, so it may seem like a slower process, but you also have to understand, just imagine your child is trying to understand two languages at the same time. Right now, if I ask you to even understand one extra language, it will take you a lot of efforts. So your child is trying to understand two languages at the same time, and soon you'll see the neural connections because of that is also expanding much more rapidly, because the brain has this, the brain works or grows in a way which says use it or lose it. So more you use your brain, the more it grows, the more it expands, especially in the case of a child. So that is how we work. I will just post out the number in case anybody has missed it out, or I am getting certain queries for that. So this is a number where, one can reach us ahead. So anytime that you think of, whether your child is growing in the way that you want them to grow in, or anytime you think that your child is behaving in a way that you want them to behave in, think about the fact that your child is growing and working at a pace that is unique to them. Identifying their traits, holding their hands for that particular period of time, and taking things ahead accordingly is important. All right. Parenting, I definitely again appreciate, how all of you have come together today to discuss certain things, to understand, how early childhood parenting works, and how to get that genius child, in making right now. You have the time, you have the resources, you have the knowledge. We are there to help you out, Brain Wonders, and along with FirstCry. So we are always there to, address any and every parenting query that you might have. I had posted the link, so you can please take that link. It is a test worth rupees 2500, which in collaboration with FirstCry, Brain Wonders is giving you out complimentary. Do take the test. It is just based on your observations about the child, and you will see that you will be able to identify the learning style of your child. We look forward to having, because of the time limit, we are not able to answer all the questions, but would definitely appreciate, all of you to come out to us, to reach out to us. It is actually very empowering for us also to see that, okay, parents are always trying to, put their best foot forward no matter what the situation is, and that is something that motivates us also to learn, explore, and dig deep into child development much further. It has been a very insightful session with all of you. Thank you so much, and I hope to connecting with all of you again very soon. Remember, your child is a genius in making. All you have to do is give them that play, give them that space for the next 10,000 hours. Thank you so much. Have a great day.